It was 7:30 p.m. on November 5, 1997, when the crew of a Virgin Atlantic Airbus A340 arrived at Los Angeles International Airport for their flight to London. At the same time, 98 passengers were checking in for the long journey. The Airbus A340, a modern and reliable aircraft, was prepared for the overnight flight across the Atlantic. Captain Tim Barnby, with over 14,000 flight hours, was in command, alongside First Officer Andrew Morley and Relief Pilot Craig Matton. The passengers settled into their seats as the final checks were completed, and the flight was ready for departure, slightly behind schedule. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. The Airbus A340, the aircraft for Flight 24, was a modern and highly reliable plane, known for its excellent safety record. This four-engine jet was just 4 years old at the time, ensuring it was still in its prime for long-haul flights. The aircraft was specifically designed for long-distance travel, offering passengers a smooth and comfortable journey. With a total weight of 73 metric tons of fuel, it was fully loaded for the 10.5-hour flight from Los Angeles to London. The A340 advanced systems and features made it an ideal choice for this transatlantic route. Captain Tim Barnby, who had flown over 14,000 hours, brought a wealth of experience to the cockpit. Alongside him was First Officer Andrew Morley, who, though new to the A340, had an impressive background with over 45,000 flight hours on other aircraft. Relief Pilot Craig Matton, also relatively new to the A340, was ready to take over during the cruise. The flight was on course for a routine departure, with the crew well prepared for the journey ahead. As the aircraft began its takeoff, everything seemed routine. The engines roared to life, and the Airbus A340 swiftly accelerated down the runway. Captain Barnby, in charge of communications and overseeing the flight, raised the landing gear as the plane lifted off into the evening sky. However, a seemingly minor action had triggered a significant problem. As the left main landing gear retracted, a torque pin came loose. The crew had no immediate knowledge of this malfunction, as everything appeared normal on their instruments. The gear simply took longer than expected to retract, and the pilots carried on, unaware that the aircraft would soon face a serious issue. This small malfunction would go unnoticed at first, but set in motion a chain of events that would dramatically alter the course of the flight, setting up the crew for challenges ahead. The flight continued on its path as the plane climbed higher into the night sky. As Flight 24 soared over the Pacific Ocean, the crew and passengers experienced a calm and peaceful journey. The aircraft reached its cruising altitude, and the atmosphere on board was relaxed. Passengers settled in, some trying to sleep, while the flight attendants completed their meal service. The vast expanse of the ocean below and the twinkling lights of Los Angeles fading into the distance offered a stunning view. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, the pilots began their routine checks of the aircraft's systems. Everything seemed normal until an unusual indication caught their attention. The brake temperature sensor for the left main gear displayed a warning, indicating no signal. Though this wasn't a major concern initially, the pilots couldn't know that it was a sign of a deeper issue, one that would soon escalate. The flight continued as planned, but the seeds of trouble had already been sown, and the calmness of the journey was beginning to shift. As the flight neared London, the situation began to take a more serious turn. While performing routine system checks, the pilots noticed something unusual on their displays. The brake temperature sensor for the left main landing gear was showing an error, indicating no signal. At first, the pilots didn't believe it was a major issue. A faulty sensor could be the cause, and they had no reason to suspect anything more severe. However, as they continued their descent toward Heathrow, the concern grew. The left main landing gear wasn't responding as expected, and a deeper issue seemed to be at play. The pilots, still unaware of the full extent of the malfunction, decided to proceed with their approach. With each passing minute, the situation became more critical, and they knew they would have to troubleshoot quickly to ensure a safe landing. The flight, which had started smoothly, was now facing an unexpected and growing challenge. As Flight 24 continued its descent towards London, the pilots faced a growing crisis with the landing gear. The issue had become increasingly clear. The left main landing gear was not extending properly. When it was time to lower the gear for landing, the right main gear and nose gear deployed as expected, but the left main gear remained stuck. The plane's computer system sent out multiple warning messages, including a gear unsafe alert. making it clear that landing in this condition was unsafe. The pilots knew they couldn't land with one of the main gears stuck, as it could lead to a dangerous situation, possibly even causing the plane to crash off the runway. The crew decided to attempt a missed approach, climbing back up to troubleshoot and buy more time. As the aircraft climbed back up, the pilots realized they would need to use every possible option to try to fix the issue before attempting another approach. In an attempt to resolve the gear issue, the pilots decided to perform a low-level flyby of the control tower at Heathrow. This rare maneuver would allow air traffic controllers and ground engineers to visually inspect the left landing gear and determine its exact position. The captain requested permission for this approach, which was granted by air traffic control. As the aircraft descended, passengers could see the airport approaching, unaware of the serious situation unfolding. With the plane flying just 300 feet above the ground, the captain banked the aircraft sharply, giving the engineers a clear view of the left main gear. The engineers confirmed that the gear was partially extended and hanging in the bay, confirming the worst fears of the crew. The pilots now had a clear understanding of the situation, but with the gear still not fully extended, they faced an even greater challenge: landing the aircraft safely with one of the main gears inoperative. With the left landing gear still stuck, the pilots had to consider a risky and unconventional solution. After discussing options with ground engineers, they decided to attempt a technique that involved bumping the gear into place. The idea was to land the aircraft on the right main gear with enough force to shake the left gear free. This maneuver was highly risky because if it didn't work, the plane could tip over or damage its remaining landing gear. Additionally, the pilots had to ensure they didn't land too hard and break the good gear. As they approached the runway for this challenging attempt, they knew there was no guarantee it would succeed. The stakes were high, and the pilots understood that this could either be a last-ditch effort to save the aircraft or result in a catastrophic failure. The tension was palpable as they lined up for the landing, fully aware of the risks involved in this untested method. The situation was rapidly becoming more critical as Flight 24 approached its final landing attempt. The pilots, still determined to land safely, were fully aware of the risks they faced. With the left main landing gear stuck, they had already exhausted all conventional troubleshooting methods. The decision was made to attempt the risky maneuver of landing on the right main gear to try and bump the left gear into position. The plan involved coming down hard on the right side of the aircraft, with the hope that the impact would shake the stuck gear loose. However, this presented significant dangers. If the impact was too hard, it could damage the only functional landing gear, leaving the aircraft in an even worse situation. There was also the possibility that the plane could tilt to the left and crash, especially if the left wing touched the ground. The crew had no choice but to proceed with this high-risk option, hoping for the best but prepared for the worst. The aircraft fuel was running low, adding further pressure to the pilot's decision-making. The captain and crew had to act quickly, balancing the need for a controlled landing with the chance of the aircraft veering off course or causing a crash. As the plane neared the runway, emergency vehicles were lined up, ready for action. The final approach would determine whether the aircraft would safely land or face disaster. As the aircraft descended towards Heathrow, the pressure on the pilots intensified. With fuel running dangerously low and time running out, the crew knew this would be their final attempt to land the plane. The captain had already formulated a plan to make the emergency landing as safe as possible, considering the circumstances. The decision was made to land on runway 27 left, which was the safer option, as it would give the plane more room to maneuver if it veered off course. The crew had to land on the right-hand side of the runway, providing a buffer in case the plane swung to the left after touchdown. As they lined up for the final approach, the tension in the cockpit was palpable. The crew worked together in a highly coordinated effort, with the captain flying the aircraft, the first officer managing communications, and the relief pilot handling checklists. Passengers were informed to brace for impact as the flight attendants prepared them for the emergency landing. The pilots meticulously followed their plan, keeping the aircraft steady while ensuring they had the best chance of controlling the plane after touching down. This was a critical moment, the culmination of hours of troubleshooting, uncertainty, and decision-making. Would their plan succeed? This incident teaches the importance of teamwork, quick decision-making, and staying calm under pressure. The flight crew's methodical approach, coupled with expert guidance from ground engineers, turned a potentially catastrophic situation into a safe landing. It highlights the value of experience, improvisation, and using available resources effectively in emergencies.